What's up guys, it's James here, and in today's video, we're gonna be talking about the best Airbnb business locations for 2022. Every year I make a video like this and you guys seem to really enjoy them year after year. So I wanted to do another video like this since the last one I did was back at the beginning of 2021. Now, a few things have changed. We've seen a lot of market fluctuations happening throughout 2021. And for the most part, there's actually a lot of similarity between the properties and the areas that are doing the best in 2021 and the ones that are doing the best in 2022, with the one exception of that they're doing quite a bit better. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, before we do, I just want to remind you that there is a link down in the description below where you can check out our free training on how to build an Airbnb business, how to earn $100,000 a year more, earn six figures, managing other people's properties without having to buy, rent, or furnish any properties. So without putting any of your money down, you can build $10,000 a month in income from managing other people's properties on Airbnb. How do you do that? Link in the description down below for our extensive, in-depth free training that'll teach you exactly how to do that step by step, as well as give you some tools. Now, if you are interested in investing in properties for Airbnb, we also have a link down below in the description for that. But this video, we're really going to be talking specifically about managing other people's properties for Airbnb. And so the link for that training is also in the description down below. Now let's jump into it. What are the best markets to get started in? Well, I like to look at it and think, okay, what is the easiest way to get the desired result? And the desired result for most people is to replace your day-to-day job, your income from your 9 to 5, whatever that may be. And so if I look at what's the easiest way to do that, it's generally going to be to work with fewer property owners versus more property owners, with the one exception of if you're doing pre-check-in management, which I'm going to touch on later on in this video as well. Now, if you're doing full service management, which is more typical, then that's generally going to be something where I would recommend you focus on a more rural area. The reason for this is if you can focus on larger properties in a more rural area, then the value for the property owners tends to be massive because the amount of additional income these properties can bring in on short-term rental versus long-term rental is huge. The gap is massive, a lot larger in more rural areas than it is in more densely populated urban centers, where the long-term rent rates are a lot higher. So you can get a lot of value created for the property owner, which means they're more likely to want to work with you. It's generally a lot easier to pick up clients in these types of markets. And the big advantage is that there's a lot more large properties to choose from generally. You don't have a huge populace of condos, things like that. So the average property tends to be a lot larger in those areas. And the income potential is just massive. I've talked about a bunch on this channel how I currently own and am managing a property that is a six bedroom property. There's 4 bedrooms upstairs and a few downstairs, so 6 bedrooms total. And that property is just a pretty regular property out in a rural area outside of the downtown core of Toronto, about 2-hour drive. And that property is bringing in $150,000 in its first year. That is insane. That means that for a property manager who's charging a 20% management fee, they'd be able to earn $30,000 in management fees on that one single property. It's not a crazy property. It's not incredible. Now, if I didn't have the expertise and the knowledge that I have around Airbnb, I would definitely be hiring a property manager for that area. And with $150,000, that means that I would still be profiting a ton on that property. The long-term rental rate I could get for that property would be way lower, about $2,000, maybe a little bit more per month. So I'd still have plenty of margin to have a property manager. They would still make really great money. And there's so little competition because it is in a more rural area that I actually have looked into hiring a property manager to get things totally taken care of, totally off our plate. And the reality is there just wasn't anyone out there that could do a good job of it. There were only a couple options to choose from, and they were mostly pretty antiquated in the way they ran their business. And so there's just a huge opportunity in those more rural areas. Now, that being said, I don't recommend just going to any rural area at all. The key things to consider are, number one, how close is it to a large populace, a large group of people? So generally within about 2 to 3 hours of a large, densely populated urban center tends to be really great. So if you can be outside of Toronto or outside of New York or outside of LA in a more rural area, that's going to be a really great area in most cases. Now, the other thing is if there is a specific draw to the area that you're looking to manage properties in that has people driving further distances. So, for example, if there's a huge national park there, or if there's a lot of lakes there, if there's a mountain there, those areas tend to do a lot better because there is that big draw. So if you take an area like, for example, Gatlinburg, where in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, pretty rural, a couple of years ago, not many people would have known about it, but it's this huge vacation destination now because of the national parks there, because of the beautiful hiking there is, the mountainous area. Like, it's got a lot going for it that draws people in. And again, those properties can quite easily generate $100, $150, even $200,000 a year, meaning that a property manager can make a six-figure income with just 3 properties under management. Now, if you think about that, it's really incredible. The amount of effort that it takes to manage 3 properties is quite low. The amount of effort it would take to get the business to that point is quite low. It's quite easy to do. We have students that will grow their business in their first year to over 30 properties. So just imagine that. You can very quickly be earning a very, very substantial monthly income from just managing a few properties. So that would be my number one recommendation if you're going the full service route. If you're going the route of pre-check-in management, then you're typically going to want to work with investors, which you can do it either way. Now, I have seen people manage properties in areas like the Poconos, different vacation rental markets for investors who are there. It's just that a lot of the time, those areas tend to be more full with vacation rental property owners. And so if you're familiar with the idea of pre-check-in management, what I talk about on this channel is that pre-check-in management is where you're managing properties just before the guest checks in. So the majority of what you're doing is really going to come down to pricing optimization and listing optimization and a little bit of guest communication. So with that in mind, the main value add is going to be for investors for 2 reasons. Number one is that for an investor, that return section is very important to them, obviously. Whereas for a vacation rental owner, it's also about maintaining the property a lot of the time. So they have that as kind of a pain point. So investors tend to be more drawn towards that pre-check-in management. And specifically what I've found is that investors who have a portfolio of 3, 4, 5 properties or more tend to be really drawn to it because they are the ones that tend to already have a cleaning team in place, have maintenance people in place. So for them, being able to use the cleaning team that they already know, like, and trust, use the maintenance people that they already know, like, and trust, that's actually a benefit for them. And so on your end, that means that you're only managing the elements of the property management that happen before the guest checks in, which is very minimal. Really easy to do that remotely because there's no actual benefit of you being on the ground. So that's a really big advantage there. And so you can manage a lot more properties with, you're obviously going to be charging a lower management fee, but you're doing a lot less work for each property. So growing your business is going to be a lot, as in terms of the number of properties, is going to be a lot quicker and easier with pre-check-in management. From an income standpoint, you're going to be earning less income per property. So it ends up being about the same growth rate when you actually look at the income that you're earning in management fees. That being said, if you are going to go the pre-check-in route, I would still highly recommend you look into these more rural markets, but don't shy away as much from the downtown markets because that's where you tend to find a lot more of the investor groups. A lot more investors flock to a little bit more urban areas as opposed to those more rural areas. That being said, again, as short-term rental investing specifically grows more and more in popularity, we are seeing a lot more people investing into these secondary markets. And that being said, I would still recommend at this point for 2022, if you are going to be going towards more urban areas, that you look for urban areas that have a draw of domestic travel because international travel is obviously still quite limited. So if you're going to manage properties in an urban area, you might want to look at somewhere where domestic people will come to, whether that's for business, whether it's traveling healthcare workers, or whether it's people that just come in from around that area and look to stay in the city center. But if you have an area that draws a lot of international tourism, that's not going to be great because obviously international travel is quite limited still in 2022. Time will tell how that's going to change, but that's my recommendation for 2022 right now. The best areas to manage properties in are going to be in rural areas that have a draw to them, that are outside of a major urban center ideally, or if you're going the pre-check-in route, looking at urban centers, but making sure that the main draw to those areas is not international travel. I hope this has been a really valuable video for you. Let me know if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns in the comment section down below. Also make sure that you check out that training that's linked in the description down below if you want to learn the whole A to Z, the whole entire process for how to earn a full-time income managing other people's properties on Airbnb. Last but not least, make sure you like this video and hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date and help this channel to grow even further. And with all that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.